Wall Street ends up with increased stocks, but inflation fears linger. New York U.S. shares ended a choppy consultation barely higher on Monday, helped via profits in Amazon.com and other megacap increased stocks, while persistent concerns over inflation and interest rates saved a lid on the market. Shares of Amazon.com Inc. Nasdaq, AMZN, rose 2% and were the biggest find for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq after the online store break up its stocks 20-for-1. Apple Inc. Nasdaq, AAPL, shares climbed 0.5%. The tech giant at its annual software program developer convention announced amongst other matters that it might extra deeply combine its software into the core using systems of motors. Among sectors, client discretionary and verbal exchange offerings had the day's biggest profits. But traders continue to be targeted on inflation and growing interest fees. A U.S. Customer Rate Index report on Friday is expected to expose still high inflation, and U.S. Treasury yields rose on Monday. A stable jobs file on Friday decreased hopes of a pause within the Federal Reserve's competitive policy tightening plan to combat inflation. There's been a push-pull within the markets now for a while, stated Paul Nolt, portfolio supervisor at Kingsview Investment Management in Chicago. The jobs record turned into proof that the economy continues to be in okay shape, he stated. But, with inflation strolling sort of high and commodity charges still rising and installing new all-time highs, perhaps that peak of inflation remains in that airy destiny. Helping sentiment had been easing regulatory crackdowns in China and signs in components of China of a return to extra-normal interest after the U.S.'s biggest COVID-19 outbreak in years. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 16.08 points, or 0.05%, to 32,915.78. The S&P 500 received 12.89 factors, or 0.31%, to 4,121.43, and the Nasdaq Composite brought 48.64 factors, or 0.4%, to 12,061.37. Twitter Inc. NYSE, TWTR, shares slipped 1.5% after billionaire Elon Musk said he might walk far from his buyout offer if the social media agency fails to provide facts on spam and pretend bills. U.S. indexed shares of Chinese firms rallied after a document that Chinese regulators are concluding probes into ride-hailing large Didi Global Inc. and other firms. The Crane shares CSI China Internet ETF jumped 4.7% and Didi Global received 24.3%. Advancing problems outnumbered declining ones on the NYSE through a 1.29-to-1 ratio. On Nasdaq, a 1.01-to-1 ratio desired decliners. The S&P 500 posted one new 52-week high and 29 new lows. The Nasdaq Composite recorded 58 new highs and 129 new lows. Volume on U.S. exchanges changed into 10.64 billion shares, compared with the 12.75 billion average for the whole consultation over the last 20 buying and selling days.